What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 70 of The Rose Show. As always, I'm your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today, my guest is Jim Starr, aka Laser of American Gladiators. So cool to be able to talk to this guy. Somebody that played a big part of my childhood, like most people from my era who grew up watching the American Gladiators. And yeah, it was real fun to be able to talk to him and hear some stories about the show. And we talked a little bit off air because I asked him some questions I didn't really know would be appropriate to do during the interview. And he answered every single one of them. And we just had a real good conversation. So I really think people are going to enjoy this, especially if American Gladiators played a part in your childhood, like I said, because for me, it was one of those everyday things. Like I would always watch it. Didn't matter if it was a rerun. Didn't matter if I'd seen it, for the first time. Didn't matter. Like I just loved American Gladiators. So it was something that I don't know if it spawned my love. All right, I'm really going to date myself here. But I don't know if it spawned my love for the show Guts and wanting to be on Guts. If you remember Guts, Nickelodeon show. Guts! Like I said, I just showed my age by at least 10 years by remembering that. But it was fun. And I think that maybe that was one of the biggest reasons why I was into that show was because of American Gladiators. So I really think people are going to enjoy this one. But I just wanted to apologize real quick. No show last week. Again, going back to the format of the show, there is no format. But last week was me and my wife's 4th wedding anniversary. So we've been together for 11 years. And we celebrated last week for our 4th wedding anniversary by going to Kings Island and just hanging out. So I didn't want to, just throw something together. I actually wanted to take time to put out the same quality that I always do of an episode. And I didn't think I could do that properly while having some time off and enjoying that with my wife. So I just said, hey, no show. And everybody appreciated it. And I appreciate all those that wished us a happy anniversary because we had a real good time. So we ended up riding 25 rides at Kings Island. How crazy is that? So I ended up surprising my wife with Fastlane tickets. If you're not familiar with that, that is the upcharge that you can use to jump the line. And luckily there was a country music festival going on that night, and the attendance wasn't really all that packed anyway for the park. So, and we might have waited 10 minutes per ride. And we ended up leaving around 8 o'clock. We still had 2 more hours to go. But after 25 rides, we were both just like, let's just call it. So, and plus, I don't know, we're going to be able to do something like that caliber again, as far as using the fast lane, because they are kind of pricey. But I just wanted to do it for a surprise for my wife. So we had a great time. Like I said, 25 rides in one day. That was a lot. That was definitely our record. We've never done more than that. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. So again, I apologize, no show last week, but hey, my wife comes first. But anyway, enough of my babbling. Let's go ahead and hear a word from my sponsors. Then my interview with Jim Starr, aka Laser. Pew pew. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Jay, and I'm here for W Energy, my sponsors. Now, what is W Energy, you might ask? W Energy is clean, jitterless energy. Better than the canned stuff that you would get at your convenience stores, your gas stations, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have all that trash in it. Now, how do I know? Because I myself use W Energy. So what I've got here, a couple of limited edition flavors. For instance, W Energy puts out this stuff called Grandpa's Ginger Water. I know it don't sound that great, but it is amazing. Limited run that they came out that I've got actually multiple tubs of. I believe in W Energy. I use W Energy myself. Also, this was just released and it's another limited edition flavor that they come out with, and it's called Pom Blom. It's pomegranate blossom. Real nice, clean flavor. And a lot of W Energy, whether it be classics like Calio Cream or the Dub Sludge, whatever it might be, it is clean energy. It's not going to make you feel all crappy at the end of the day after using it. Now, here's what I want you to do, because again, they're obviously a sponsor of mine, but what I want you to do is I want you to go to www.w.gg, order one of the sampler packs, which you get one of these cool tumblers, a part of the sampler pack, and I want you to grab one, but don't use my promo code. That's right. Don't use my promo code who else at checkout, because I want you to try it without thinking I'm just trying to sell you a bill of goods. Try it one time, and then when you go back to buy your second order of W Energy, then use my promo code who else at checkout for a 10% discount, because all you're going to do is try it. I know you're going to love it. That's how much I believe in this product, and I thank them for sponsoring the show today. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of The Rose Show. As always, I am your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today, my guest. He was an All-American linebacker at Montana State University, a former player in the National Football League, one of the longest, if not the longest, if my memory serves, longest male character on American Gladiators, and for a 90s kid like me, a nostalgia icon. It is Jim Starr, aka Laser, my friend. How are we doing today?
Doing great, Jay. Thank you. I appreciate the invite. This will be fun. So, yeah, it's it's amazing. You think of when the show ended, which was almost 30 years ago. I mean, it's just
Ah,
incredible to think, and this nostalgia, and Prime Video. I don't know if you saw the Amazon Prime Video. They just got done shooting their new episodes over in France, so that's coming out. Unfortunately, they didn't ask us to be on the show, which is goofy as hell to me. But anyhow, yeah, it's just crazy to think that something came out 30 years ago that's as popular, if not more popular now than it was even 30 years ago. I mean, it's just crazy.
I absolutely agree. And for people like me, and especially in that time frame in the 90s, I just think like it was such a perfect era for that kind of an entertainment. But let's go ahead and go back to your childhood and how you kind of got started in athletics. Give us a little bit about your background and how you got involved in sports.
Yeah, for sure. So my dad and grandpa geez, they were phenomenal athletes. My grandpa was a national handball champion, and his hands were as big as probably the biggest set of hands. And I'm not kidding you either. My grandpa, who came from Montana, was a carpenter. He had the biggest set of hands and paws that you would ever imagine, and the calluses. When we were kids, he would put his hand in a fire, and we were little kids going, "Grandpa, put your hand in the fire." I mean, he could just leave it in there. It was just crazy. But anyhow, he was a handball champion. And then my dad, he boxed and played football and was a baseball player. He went to Washington State on a full ride for football and boxing. And unfortunately, and that's where he met my mom from. She was from North Hollywood, but he got kicked out of college for getting in a bar fight. And back then, no, things didn't happen. You didn't get arrested, but I
Right.
guess and he never wanted to talk about it because he ended up going back to Montana and then just being a carpenter and hated his life, but he really regretted that time that that he didn't finish school, and, he had bigger ideas and bigger plans. But I think it all started with obviously, the pedigree, your family. And then my mom and dad never pushed me to be in sports. I have a younger brother that's 6 years younger. He was a stud. He played at University of Montana as a nose guard. But my parents never pushed myself to be in sports. I just loved it. I mean, I remember when I was very young, probably fourth, fifth grade, we'd always go down to the park and play tackle football. And I just had a dream to play professional football. I didn't know how to get there, what to do. It was before social media and cell phones. So I just had this dream and became a pretty good, athlete, better at football. Obviously, that was my passion. And then my senior year in high school, I had quite a few scholarship offers. Out of this, I was born and raised in Great Falls, Montana, and had quite a few scholarship offers in Montana, outside of Montana, but decided just to stay in Montana because those were my roots. And I went on some recruiting trips at University of Montana, which is the Grizzlies, and then Montana State, the Bobcats. And I just fell in love with the Bobcats, in my recruiting trip, and decided to do my 4 years at Montana State.
Yeah. What was your favorite NFL team growing up? I know the ones that you played for, but did you have a specific NFL team, or do you just love football no matter who it
I
was?
love football. I just still remember watching football with my dad, right? So I think probably the Green Bay Packers. Just
Ooh.
yeah, I just I think they're such an icon as far as an NFL team. But yeah, I love the Packers. I really did. Yeah, and I still do. I mean, I'm not a over like a fan that just has to watch them, but I enjoy the green and gold, and kind of reminds me of my high school. They were green and gold, so yeah, it kind of brings back a lot of memories.
Yeah, hey, you could be a Titans fan like me and just have no passion for football ever. So there is that.
That's
But
funny.
hey, we got a little bit of hope with Cam Ward, but
There
after
you go.
Vince Young, I'm
Yeah.
just done. But anyway, back to you. Um, So, okay, obviously we know you did make it to the NFL. How did you end up transitioning from the NFL to
Sure.
American Gladiators? Walk us through that time.
Yeah, great question. So my senior year, I had, and I still hold some records at Montana State and in the Big Sky for the total tackles in one season, which was a 32 or 202 and 32 in a game. And that was my junior year and was the first time I ever played linebacker. I just excelled. It was like right up my alley. My senior year, I ended up missing 4.5 games for an ankle injury. And our team we only went, I think, 1-10, a terrible season. Nobody looked at us. And I was expected to probably get drafted, but obviously coming from a smaller school, not doing well. And then my height hurt me. I was only 5'11 and a half. And back then, the stereotypical linebacker was, 6'2 to 6'3. But, it is what it is. So my senior year, I was drafted by the USFL, the San Antonio Gunslingers. That was their first year to develop that United States Football League. I decided not to go. They only drafted 2 linebackers, myself and another guy, and I should have went and got some playing time. But they were a new league, new organization. They never called me after drafting me for 2 weeks. So my agent, who was Ken Stanager out of Montana, said, "Nah, I don't think you should go there. This league could last a year and you'd be out." So thought I was going to get drafted, but because terrible season, missed 4.5 games, 5'11", I ended up going. I was a free agent, went to Kansas City, made the team, and first game got hurt. They flew me home. That was the end of my career there. So I went back to Montana State, had 2 quarters left to graduate, went back 1 quarter, and then went up to Canada with Toronto Argonauts, which was pretty cool, for a year and a half. Then they cut me, went back home, back to Montana State, graduated. Somehow the Rams found out about me, and I signed on with them. And then the first game running down on a kickoff in the Saints and the Superdome, the guy just happened to blindside me just perfectly and hit my elbow, and everything was like a car crash, is how the trainers explained it to me. Is it just was such a collision that I fractured my scapula, which was an impaction. It was called an impaction fracture, where the scapula actually broke off and went inside my body.
Oh,
And I punctured a lung. But the ironic thing is I crushed my larynx and I lost my voice for about 4.5, 5 months. And I didn't know if it was going to come back. But here's the ironic thing. This is tell you the mindset of an athlete and scared to come out as a rookie. That was the first play. It was a kickoff. I was on all the kickoffs, and it was the first play of the game, and was injured. And I played the entire game, played every special teams with that, all of that happened. And as soon as the game was over, it was just grotesque. They took me to the doctor, and they, obviously, I got a nice little payday, but got cut from the Rams in 1987. And I met Dan Clark, who became Nitro. He also played ball at the Rams, and we became roommates for 3 years. And all we did was party and have fun and train, and we're like rock stars. And we both tried out for the Gladiators, and we both made it. And that's kind of how it all started, 1989. And I missed there was 26 episodes in a season, approximately 26 to 30. I missed the first half of the first season, the first 13. They had Malibu, and he wasn't doing very well. And so they stopped production, had another tryout, and that's when I tried out, made the show, and was on it for the next 7.5 years. So that's how it all started.
One of the things I was always kind of curious, because obviously you guys all had stage names like Laser and, like you said, Malibu. How did they let you guys choose your stage name, or was that given to you? And how did they or you come up with the name Laser?
God, you got some great questions. That's awesome. I was the only gladiator that came up with my own name. They were all picked and chosen by the directors or producers. Nobody could come up with a name. We were I think we were at Mary Tyler Moore Studios, which is right next to Universal Studios in Hollywood. And we were practicing, and we were in the seats, the stadium kind of at the studio, and everybody said, "Well, what's your name?" And the producer said, "Well, come up with something." And I just thought, what's fast, quick, can like slice right through you. And I just said Laser. And everybody said, "That's it. That's your name, Laser." And that was it. but they own the name in perpetuity. They owned Laser with an S, and then I trademarked it with a Z, so I could go out and do public appearances and do whatever. But I think every gladiator was given their name by the show. Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, going from college football to gladiators, obviously, people think, sports is sports, but I don't believe that for a second. And I think you would agree with that. What was the hardest transition from going from collegiate football to doing the American Gladiators? Or was there, or am I wrong? Am I off base? Was it pretty smooth for you to transition from one to the other?
It was I'll be honest, it was difficult because as an athlete, you have a mindset of and a schedule. You have a schedule every day of what you're going to do. Every day you wake up, you know what you're going to do, and when that's taken away from you as an athlete, and you're left wondering what you're going to do with your life, I got to tell you, man, Jay, it was dark times for 3 years. I mean, there was, suicidal thoughts and thinking, what's my life going to be? What am I doing? I had a college degree, but shit, I didn't care about that. I wanted to be an athlete, and it was taken away so abruptly and so quickly that you wonder, what's my life about now? Why am I going to the gym? Why am I, I used to train my ass off. I mean, 3-4 times a day, all day, and that was my life. And then you're like, well, why am I doing this now? What's my purpose? You lose your purpose in life. And I got to tell you, if the Gladiators didn't come around, because there's no other team that would sign me, my injury was too horrific, and I became a liability. So for the Gladiators to come around and be able to showcase my athletic skill set, it was just a dream come true. The money wasn't that great, but I didn't do it for the money. I wasn't done playing. And it was the next best thing to professional football was being an athlete and showcasing your skill set. And, I did not like being on camera. I felt very uncomfortable because they still wanted to be Hollywoodish, right? With your interviews, nothing was staged on the events, nothing, which was really cool. If they had that staged, I wouldn't even have done it. But being on camera was not my forefront. That was not my favorite. I'd get nervous every time, but boy, I love to compete, man. That was just right up my alleyway.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions I had actually later on my list here, but we'll get to now because you kind of alluded to it, was nothing was staged. So it was all 100% pure
Oh,
competition. None of it was Hollywood at all. It was just 100%. What you saw on TV was what you got, as
you,
what you're saying.
you better believe it. Maybe the interviews pretty hammy, right? And you'll notice in the first couple of years, they wanted us to have this character Hollywoodish, like Dan Clark being cocky and arrogant. And then, and I just wasn't that guy, right? I just wanted to compete. So the interviews I'd get nervous. And then right around the third year, I think it was Julie Rush, one of the producers, just said, you know what? Everybody be who they want to be. Just interview, just be who you are. Wow. Was that a game changer? Because then you didn't have to think about what you were going to say. You could just compete, say whatever, and then move on. And it was just, I think they finally figured it out around the third, fourth year that just let us be who we are. And I think that's when the show really took off.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, another thing you kind of alluded to was the reason why you got in was because you just wanted to play, but you ended up being the longest male tenured athlete or gladiator rather
Yeah,
on American Gladiators.
right.
What do you think it was that kept it so consistent for you to keep coming back? Was it your love for competing, or was it just like, did you fall in love with the actual competition itself, like American Gladiators, a competition? What was it exactly that kept you coming back every single season?
Man, you got some great questions. Most
Thank you.
people I ever asked any of those questions. You know, uh, I, I think about why I was the only one that lasted all those years, right? And I had more injuries than anyone, more surgeries. And those 7 years, I think I had 9 surgeries, most of them shoulder operations after the
Whoa.
season. And I've had 23 surgeries since then, but 13 shoulder operations. And I always have to come back to it wasn't the love of the gladiators. It was the love of competing, but I'd have to contribute the success of my longevity to my training, the mindset that and I've lived by this motto is never surrender, right? You just never surrender. You just, you want to quit. There's days where you're like, shit, I don't know if I want to get up and do this today. But if you keep
Right.
telling yourself never surrender, and that's our kind of our family motto is never surrender. And I've kind of lived by that, but I think it's my nutrition, and I'm 63 now, and I still go to the gym every day, still watch what I eat, and I think really what it comes down to is just taking care of your body, and I did it right. I never missed a workout, I never missed a training session or physical rehab, things like that, and I think that's really what it came down to.
This isn't in my notes here, but your career-ending injury with the NFL, did that present you any challenges as far as your activities on American Gladiators, or was that something you kind of just rehab from, and or did it nag you, or what was it like living with that? Because that sounds pretty severe.
Yeah, it was pretty severe. And there's days where I kind of feel it a little bit, but you back up it was only 3 years from 87 to late 89 until I, was on the Gladiator show. It
Mhm.
was more about the weather changing. When the weather
Oh
was
wow.
changing, I would feel, I'd feel that scapula, and I still kind of feel it today. And it's amazing. I can take my larynx and just move it. It's like it's the weirdest thing. Like it goes everywhere. But yeah, it's just kind of a weird dichotomy that the injuries and all of that. But yeah, I think I healed up enough where it didn't affect me on the show, and thankfully it didn't. I healed up quite well.
Yeah. Well, I'm and correct me if I'm wrong. I would assume pretty much, well, not pretty much. I would assume a lot of the competitors on American Gladiators, as far as the actual gladiators go, probably are there for the same reasons you were, for competing. And when you're a competitor, whether it's athletes, musicians, artists, doesn't
Yeah,
matter what it is, you're competitive with your surrounding,
that's right.
environment and who all's in there with you. Was there any rivalries between the actual gladiators that the people don't really know about? Like, hey,
Yeah,
I'm going to make sure that I win this one. You better do it too, or I'm
yeah.
going to rub it in your face later. Was there a lot of that behind the scenes?
Yeah, there was. And like you said earlier, it was not staged. And I can
Yeah.
be truthful. If it was staged, I wouldn't have done it. Serious. I don't care how much they would have paid us. That's just not me. If someone told me, like, we were asked to be in Worldwide Wrestling, myself and Tower, to be the next tag team champions, and I did. I turned it down. I didn't want to do it. It's like, that's not me. So, when you look back at the events, none of it was staged. When you look at one of the rivalries I remember just for myself was Lucian Anderson, and you'll find it on YouTube. Him and I were in the Conquer ring, and we had those singlets on, and we got it. I tackled, got out of bounds somehow, and he ripped my singlet off, and him and I got into it, man. I was just like, holy shit! And him and I just we butted heads,
Yeah.
but there was only, I would say, a handful of times in the 7 years where all the men gladiators got together because there'd be some cocky contestant. There wasn't many because they were very humble. You're an athlete, but there were a few that were just cocky as heck and just thought they were going to kick our ass. And we got together, all of us, like on Powerball, because there's three gladiators, two contenders, and we were like, this guy's not going anywhere, man. We're laser focused on that dude right there. And
Yeah.
we did. And we didn't do it often, but there was times where we didn't like that contestant, and he made sure that and we made sure he wasn't going to keep going on in terms of going down in the competition and elevating himself to get in the second, third round, and then obviously being a champion. So yeah, we did that several times.
Yeah. I was born in 1986. So
Okay.
during the heyday of the Gladiators, I was in elementary school, and me and all my circle of friends were huge fans of the show, to the point where we would go on the play sets in the back of the elementary school, and we would play American Gladiators. And I would always think like, oh, I could do stuff like that until we started doing it on the actual like, play sets. And then you realize I can't even do this on a
Can't
play
do
set.
that.
I'm not,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not doing this in real life. There's no way. Right.
yeah.
But from the perspective of the person that was actually doing it, was there any actual event for you where your name would get drawn and you would just go, oh no, I don't want to do this one because it's going to kick my ass? Or was everything kind of just equally as hard for you?
No, there was one event that I dreaded, and I dreaded it so much that after doing it twice, I even went to the producers and said, I literally kick me off the show. I don't care. I'm not doing it. And it was Skytrack. And I don't know if they only had it on for a couple of seasons when we were like
Oh, yeah.
40 feet up in the air in a little harness upside down, and you had Velcro gloves on. And I got to tell you, I'm not a fan of heights anyhow. And when you're upside down like that, knowing geez, we had to have been 30 feet up in the air. And it was a fright. Your body's just not used to being upside down.
Right.
And I got so dizzy and so sick after I think I did it twice, and I was just nauseous. And I just couldn't do it. And that was one event that not too many people liked. As far as our gladiators, we just not a normal thing to be upside down and be 30 feet up in the air. Just
Sure.
not cool. So yeah, that was one event I did not like.
Yeah. Were you guys able to practice the events beforehand, or was it all just kind of on the spot? Or and even the contestants, were the contestants able to go through the events beforehand, or was it just, day of, that's your only shot to do it?
Yeah, good. God, great questions. So there was a couple things. So they hired an ex-Marine to work on the joust, and he worked with us as gladiators and also contenders. The joust was one thing that we practiced quite a bit. Hang tough, because we only practiced. There was like 4 to 5 days of rehearsal time where they would set up the equipment, and it took a hell of a long time to wheel out the equipment. They'd have a huge crew setting up the new equipment. But everything else, I think, let's see, there was slingshot, maybe 3 to 4 events that we would practice on, but everything else was, it was whistle and go and kick ass and take names later. That was basically it. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. What during your time during the show, is there anything that you took away from it after it was all said and done that you feel like you still kind of use in your everyday life? Could it be just the discipline to do something like that? Because I mean, you kind of alluded to it earlier, just to be constantly doing such hard activities has got to be, you have to have a strong discipline. Would you say that's the main thing that you took away from it, or was there any life lessons? What was, when you think about it now, what do
Yeah.
you take away and apply to your everyday life today?
The one lesson, I learned a valuable lesson during the NFL when my career was cut short. You always hear, hey, play it like your last down, because you never know if you're going to play again, right? You don't know if that's your last play.
Right.
And I took that life lesson with the Rams and losing, my position in the NFL with that injury. And so every day that I was on that Gladiator show, I appreciated just being there. Right. So, and that's probably it. I already had the mindset to never quit. I do that with my job. I've been 30 years in product development. I'm with a company called NSF now. It's a third-party testing, inspection, certification company. And I give it my all. Usually when I do anything in life, my granddad taught me a valuable lesson when I was very young. I was cleaning his shop. He was a woodworker, did that on the side, and he told me to clean his shop up. So I went in and cleaned his shop. Well, I didn't do a very good job. So I had to go back and redo everything I just did. And it took me twice as long. So he sat me down, and I think I was 8 or 9 years old. He said, you always do the best job you can do, even when nobody is watching. And I thought, wow, because it's easy to cut corners when nobody's watching you, right?
Sure.
Somebody
Yeah.
telling you to do the lawn or something, you're like, nobody's watching, shit, I'm gonna do a half-assed job. That taught me a lesson, because the last thing I want to do is go clean his shop again for an hour and a half when it only took me a half hour the first So,
Yeah.
and I learned that lesson, and I kind of kept it moving forward in my life with everything I do in life. So, yeah.
Yeah. Would you do you think we have shows like American Ninja Warrior and the Titan Games without American Gladiators? Because I
No,
personally don't.
no, I don't either. And I love Ninja Warrior. We were really the first reality TV show
Yes,
without knowing,
absolutely.
we were reality TV, right? I don't think so. Because we paved that way. We paved the way for Ninja Warrior and all the other things, all the other type of shows that came out. And yeah, I think we paved that way for all these other shows to kind of resemble what we did, competition and all that. I mean, geez, that Ninja Warrior's been on for, 10, 15 seasons, something like that. That's crazy. And I still watch it. They're getting better. The games are getting better. It's fun to watch.
Yeah. I do think it would be cool if there was somebody trying to knock him off the balls and stuff during that. But that's just because I didn't my
I
background of being a
agree.
fan. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all one-on-one type stuff. But yeah, those guys are studs too. I got to tell you, when they did, when the show, the Gladiator started in '89, it really started to pick up momentum because we did that live tour that we went out to all these cities in 6 months, night after night after night, and I got a 90. I think the last 3 years we had tryouts in New York, Chicago, and LA. And in New York alone, the last 2 years, we had over 30,000 people try out for our show as contenders. And they wanted the best of the best. They didn't really want ex-professional athletes, even though we had those. When you're an athlete, it doesn't matter if you're 160 pounds or 220, your athletic ability could be better, and your strength and power could be better at 170 pounds than a guy that's 220. So they didn't want two big, massive guys going against each other, or women. So they realized, hey, let's just get the best athletes. And if you're a great athlete, you're a great athlete, period. Very few of our events was about strength and power. It was more about finesse and just being an all-around athlete. And you saw that probably that resembled that in the wall, hang tough, that you kind of had to showcase your skill set. You just weren't a big bodybuilder trying to, throw someone down on the mat, something like that. So,
Right, right. What are some of your favorite moments when you think about your time over there? Was there a certain competition that you won? Is it the friendships you made? When you think about
yeah,
your time, what are your favorite moments from that
God,
time
I love
period?
your questions.
Thank you.
To be honest, my daughter was born in 1990, and that was my first year. And her being that young, but then every year she'd be coming to the shows to watch daddy. And the last year she was 7 years old, right? So I just remember competing and her in the stands yelling, "Go, daddy, go." It brings me a lot of emotion because it just, it brings back my two daughters. My other one was born in 94. She was too young to really remember, but my older daughter, Katie, it just really special times,
Yeah.
and I was competing, and every year I'd get hurt and have surgery, and I was really doing it for them, the family, and putting a roof over our head and food on the table. And it was just about competing and making sure they were going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, as we wind things down here and wrap this up, one last question. As you could tell from right behind me, I am a
Yeah,
fan of wrestling.
yeah,
And the Miz
yeah,
and is hosting the reboot. Do you think in today's climate, because I think there's when they announced the reboot, the first thing I thought was people my age and above are going to understand what came before.
yeah,
But anybody younger is going to think, oh, they're ripping off American Ninja Warrior or
yeah,
whatever Titan Games, whatever it is. Do you think that this reboot can be successful, or what are your opinions on that? Obviously, they neglected to bring you guys in for reasons I don't
yeah.
understand, but
That I don't understand either, Jay. All of us gladiators talk, and we were all thinking they were going to at least invite us. It's the turning of the tide. It's passing the torch, right? So they didn't pass the torch. We started the Gladiators.
right,
I don't understand their mentality and thinking. Yes, we're pissed, we're hurt. Yeah, I think I'm more hurt. All of us are, that they didn't ask us to either be host, a trainer,
right,
just a cameo appearance. I don't understand that thinking, because you who grew up watching the Gladiators, let's say you have kids and you have grandkids, wouldn't you be the one to see American Gladiators on Prime Video and say, oh my gosh, this is American Gladiators. I watched that. Let's watch it together. Right. Now you're passing that torch on to your kids and grandkids. We all of us Gladiators got together and we're like, why didn't they invite us? Like, what's the premise to that? So when you think of The Miz and wrestling, I don't watch wrestling, right? I mean, I know what it is and all that.
Sure.
But The Miz, so we were thinking, is this going to be successful? We're thinking, well, they're trying to appeal to the younger population, the younger, consumer base. They're all into the wrestling, right? So obviously they brought them, our show wasn't built on professional athletes, or even though most of us played professional football as gladiators, when they came out with Hulk Hogan's part of it years back and Ali, and they tried to do the remix and reboot, then it failed. Our show was authentic, and you're bringing wrestling in. Well, maybe it might work today because, I was just about a week ago, some kid, he was 23, said, what do you do? You look familiar, but maybe I don't. I said, American Gladiators. He goes, what's that show? So, the younger population doesn't know us, but if you said wrestling and the Miz, they probably do, right? So I think what they're trying to do is segue their way to what's popular today to grab that market share. That's all I'm thinking about, because we're really confused on why they wouldn't even have asked us to be hosts or trainers or cameo appearances and pass that torch. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I just don't get it. It's like the TV show Friends. If they were, if you got a brand new Friends, you think they would pass the torch, right? And kind of do a couple appearances until it caught momentum. We don't get it. Whatever. So who knows if it's going to last? My prediction, it's just my prediction. It's just my opinion. People can shame me or whatever, but I don't think it's going to last. I'd say maybe a couple seasons. I mean, geez, you got Prime Video, and they put a ton of money into it, went over to France and brought all the Gladiators, contenders, and who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I wish them well, but see what happens.
Even as a wrestling fan, when I heard The Miz was the one hosting, I'm like, why? What the fuck does he have to do with the American Gladiators?
Did you really?
Wow. Yeah, I did, because and again, it might just be because I remember the OG, So for me, there's not that connection, but I think what you said makes a lot of sense, because wrestling for that generation right now is super hot.
Super hot. Yeah.
They're doing a lot of, all wrestling organizations they're blowing up. So maybe I think you might have a point there with them trying to gain that
market share and whatever.
Market share.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what they're doing. That's the only thing I can think of, but who knows?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today, my man. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, I was always a fan when I was a kid. I enjoyed it so much, and even like the cameos on Family Matters and stuff like that. It was so cool to see that kind of stuff, and just the competition. Again, I found out very quickly trying to emulate you guys. I wasn't an athlete, so just being a bystander was fun enough. So again, thank you very much for what you've done to your body for our entertainment, and I always give the last couple of minutes to my guests. If there's anything you want to plug, if there's a website, social media, anything like that, the floor is yours, brother.
Yeah, I'd love to promote my wife's new company, the Hygienist Bar, here in Cherry Creek in Denver area. It's the only one of its kind in the entire country where you can go to a hygienist to get your teeth cleaned or whitened without going to a dentist. She's the first in the country to develop this really cool spa-like atmosphere. And all of her equipment's out of Switzerland. It's state of the art. There's no grinding and poking. It's just an awesome business. She's got investors lined up wanting to get involved. And I'm promoting her company just because it's one of a kind, first of its kind in the entire country. Nobody's thought of it. It's just like, what? Nobody's thought of this idea of having a hygienist outside of a dentist office. But she's blowing up. So if you're anybody interested, look up thehygienistbar.com. There's all kinds of social media. You can find us on Facebook. It's pretty cool. I thank you for letting me plug that as well. It's called the Hygienist Bar.
Awesome. Jim, thank
Uh,
you so much, my man. It's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it, brother.